XCOM gives you 2 actions per turn. Divinity Original Sin gives you action points. Into the Breach gives you 1. Final Fantasy X puts everyone on a timeline and lets you cut in line. These 4 decisions created 4 completely different combat systems from the same genre, and the decision underneath all of them isn't abilities, isn't stats, and isn't balance. It's Action Economy. Action Economy answers 3 questions. What can you do in a turn? What does it cost? And what do you have to skip? Every turn-based game has one. Whether the developer designed it on purpose or not, it's the difference between a turn where you make a real decision, I can attack or move but not both, and a turn where you just do everything. Move, attack, use 3 items, cast 2 spells, end turn. That's not a decision, that's a checklist. The core principle is simple: scarcity creates meaning. If a player can do everything they want every turn, there's no reason to think. The action economy is what forces choices. Imagine 2 turn-based games. Same genre, same abilities, same art. Game 1 gives you unlimited actions. You move across the map, attack every enemy in range, use all your items, cast every spell, and end your turn having done everything you wanted. Every turn feels the same because every turn is optimal. There's no reason to ever make a suboptimal choice when you can just do everything. Game 2 gives you 2 actions. You can move and attack, or move twice to reposition, or attack twice if you're already in range, or use 1 item and save 1 action. Now every turn is a real decision. Do I move to flank and lose my shot? Do I stay in cover and lose the flank? Do I heal now and sacrifice damage this turn? Game 2 is every good turn-based game ever made. Game 1 is what your combat feels like when you didn't design the action economy. There are 4 models that cover every turn-based game. The first is fixed actions. Each unit gets a set number of things they can do per turn. No more, no less. XCOM is the gold standard here. Every soldier gets 2 actions: move and shoot, move twice, overwatch, reload, use an item, but never all of them. You choose 2. That constraint is the entire game. If you move to flank an enemy, you might not be in cover. If you stay in cover, you can't flank. Every single turn in XCOM is a positioning bet, and that bet exists because you can't move and shoot and reposition and heal all at once. The 2 action system is the simplest action economy to implement and the hardest to master because it forces binary choices: move or shoot, advance or hold, kill this enemy or overwatch that doorway. Into the Breach takes fixed actions to the extreme. 1 action per mech. You move or you attack. That's it. The entire puzzle-like quality of Into the Breach exists because of that single constraint. When you can only do 1 thing per turn, every single choice carries weight. Do I push this Vix off the attack line, or do I shoot the Vic that's about to hit a building? I can't do both. That's the action economy creating tension. Fixed actions work best when you want every turn to be a clear, sharp decision. They're simple to understand, easy to balance, and they scale to any unit count. If your game is about tactical positioning, this is probably your model. The second model is action points. Instead of a fixed number of actions, you get a pool of points and everything costs something. Divinity Original Sin 2 is the reference here. You typically get 4 to 6 action points per turn. Moving costs points per meter. A basic attack costs 2 AP, a powerful spell costs 3. You can save points between turns with the right build. The result is a system where your character build directly determines how efficiently you spend your economy. A character with the Executioner talent gets 2 AP back every time they kill an enemy, so that character is built to finish off weak targets. A rogue with backstab bonuses gets more damage per AP spent from stealth. The AP system creates a direct line from character build to combat efficiency. Your build isn't just about what abilities you have, it's about how much you can do with your points. The thing about AP systems is they create emergent efficiency. A player who understands the economy will find ways to squeeze more value out of the same 4 points than a player who doesn't. That's not a balance problem, that's the game working as designed. The gap between a new player spending 4 AP and an experienced player spending 4 AP is your skill ceiling. Action points are more complex to balance because you have to cost every single action, but they reward players who understand the system deeply. If your game has deep character builds with lots of customization, AP systems let those builds express themselves in combat. The economy isn't separate from the build, and here's the implementation detail that matters. Your AP costs need to be granular enough to create real trade-offs. If everything costs 1 or 2 AP, there's no economy. You need costs spread across a range, some cheap, some expensive, so that spending 3 AP on a spell versus 1 AP on a movement creates an actual decision. The third model is the timeline or initiative system. Instead of everyone getting a fixed turn, everyone exists on a timeline. Fast characters act more often, slow characters act less often. Slow characters act less often, and the turn order is visible and manipulable. Final Fantasy X does this beautifully. The conditional turn-based system shows you a bar on the right side of the screen with every character and enemy in order. You can see exactly who goes next. And crucially, you can see how your action changes the order. Use a fast weapon and your next turn comes sooner. Cast haste on your party and they jump up the timeline. Cast slow on the boss and it drops back. The economy isn't just about what you do, it's about when you do it. That turns buffing and debuffing from boring stat boosts into strategic sequencing decisions. Grandia takes the timeline even further with its IP bar. You can see enemies charging up their attacks on the bar, and if you hit an enemy during that charge phase, you cancel their action entirely. Now, the economy includes disruption. You can spend your turn preventing the enemy from spending theirs. That's a completely different kind of decision than do I attack or defend. It's do I act on my own plan or disrupt theirs. Timeline systems work best when your combat is about timing and sequencing. Party-based RPGs with buff and debuff strategies benefit hugely because the player can plan ahead. They can see the order, the information is on screen, but there's a cost. Timeline systems require the player to read a UI element and think about sequencing. Don't use this model if your audience won't study the turn order. And there's a technical consideration. Your turn order display needs to update in real time as the player browses their options. The moment a player selects haste, the timeline should visually update to show where everyone moves. That feedback loop, see the order, pick an action, watch the order shift, is what makes the timeline model engaging. If your UI can't show that shift clearly, the whole model falls apart. The fourth model is the hybrid. Most modern turn-based games don't use one pure system, they combine them. And this is where a lot of the most interesting design happens, because adding a second constraint layer to any economy model creates entirely new types of decisions. Darkest Dungeon uses fixed actions, one action per character per turn, but layers in position. Your abilities are only usable from certain ranks. Get knocked to the wrong rank and your best move is disabled. The economy isn't just about spending your action, it's about maintaining the position that lets you spend it well. A Crusader who gets shuffled to the back row can't use their frontline abilities. Now you have to spend a turn repositioning, which costs your action. Position became a hidden AP cost inside a fixed action system. Valkyria Chronicles combines action points with real-time movement. Each unit has an AP meter that determines how far they can move in real time before taking their action. You spend AP to move, then you choose what to do. The economy is spatial and temporal at the same time. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 combines turn-based actions with real-time parry and dodge during the enemy's turn. The economy extends beyond your own turn into the enemy's phase. The principle here, the best hybrid systems add a second constraint on top of the primary economy. Position plus actions. AP plus real-time movement, turn actions plus real-time defense. Two constraints create more interesting puzzles than one. So how do you pick the right model for your game? 3 questions. First, what's your game about? If it's tactical unit positioning, like XCOM or Into the Breach, use fixed actions. The whole game is about where your units are, so the economy should force positioning choices. If it's character build diversity, like Divinity or Pathfinder, use action points. Your players want to express their build in combat, and AP efficiency is the perfect expression of that. If it's timing and buff sequencing, like Final Fantasy or Grandia, use a timeline. The whole point of buffs and debuffs is to change when things happen, so make when visible and manipulable. Second, how much complexity can your player handle? Fixed actions are learnable in one turn. A new XCOM player understands the 2-action system after their first mission. AP systems take a few battles to internalize. You need to see the costs, spend the points, realize you ran out, and adjust. Timeline systems require the player to read and plan. They need to look at the turn order, think about sequencing, and act accordingly. Match the model to your audience, not the other way around. If your game is a casual mobile RPG, don't use an AP system with 47 ability costs. If your game is a hardcore CRPG for genre veterans, fixed actions might feel too simple. Third, what's your unit count? Fixed actions scale to any number because each unit is independent. XCOM works with 4 soldiers or 20. AP systems work best with small parties, 3 to 6 characters. because costing gets complicated with more units and the player can't track everyone's efficiency. Timeline systems work best with medium parties because the timeline becomes unreadable with too many actors. Final Fantasy X works with 3 active party members. Put 12 characters on that timeline bar and it becomes noise. Here's where AI tools change the game for turn-based design. You can prototype all 4 Action Economy models in a weekend using Claude Code or Cursor, generate the combat manager, the turn tracker, the AP pool, the timeline display, but the real power is balanced simulation. Define your action economy, define your abilities with costs, and have AI run thousands of simulated combats to find broken combinations. If your AP system lets a player deal 200 damage in one turn when the average enemy has 50 GP, the simulation catches it. You can ask AI to generate ability cost proposals given a 6 AP economy, design 30 abilities with cost between 1 and 5 AP, and make sure no combination exceeds reasonable output. For timeline systems, AI can generate turn order manipulation effects and verify each one creates interesting decisions instead of degenerate strategies. One specific technique that works well, have AI generate a damage per AP curve for every ability in your game. Plot cost on one axis, damage on the other. Abilities should fall on a rough curve, expensive abilities do more, cheap abilities do less. Any ability that sits above the curve is overpowered for its cost. Any ability below the curve is underpowered. AI can generate that analysis in seconds and flag the outliers. That's a balanced pass that used to take a week of playtesting. We're building exactly this kind of AI-accelerated combat prototyping inside AI Craft. The action economy models from XCOM, Divinity, Final Fantasy, and Into the Breach, fixed actions, AP pools, timeline systems, and hybrids are the kind of turn-based combat architecture we're prototyping in the community, with AI tools running balanced simulations across thousands of ability combinations to find the sweet spot. Join AI Craft and design your own. Please feel free to subscribe and check out the links in the description below.